Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Zelda Challenge. Basic rundown of the rules. We're going to take a topic. Each of us is going to take a moment to make our case on how our answer most applies to the question. And then you guys are going to click up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, the icon, and cast your vote in a poll of who you thought made a better argument. So today our topic is...
which Zelda game deserves more respect than it gets?
I chose Skyward Sword. And what did you pick?
I picked Link to the Past. Two very different games.
So to decide who goes first, we just started using this Start Player app. It's for picking who goes first in board games, but it's a game in itself. So are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right. Here
Spin
we go.
the dial.
Boop. All right. The person who has the most letters in their first and last names.
Oh, gosh. I need a calculator. If I math correctly, I have 12.
Gooeyfame. Oh my gosh. I have 8.
So wow. That Irish heritage paid off.
All right, so would you like to go first or second?
I will bestow the honor of presenting the argument first to you.
So I'm going to tell you why Skyward Sword does not get the respect it deserves. And I'm going to do that by illustrating how much less respect it gets compared to A Link to the Past. Now, A Link to the Past, there's a huge amount of people who overlook it, and they maybe look to Ocarina of Time or something like that. You know, some of the more seasoned veterans will know that A Link to the Past is one of the most classic Zelda games, upon which many other Zelda games are built. And I think you will find a lot of people who feel that way. Now, on the other hand, I don't know a single person who Skyward Sword is their favorite game. Now, you may say there's a reason why, but I think the game itself is actually underappreciated. Sure, it has its flaws. Some people don't like the motion controls or whatever, but I think there are a lot of things that game does better than almost any Zelda game. For example, I think the story is one of the best stories of any Zelda game. The art style, definitely up there for me in the top spots. It's got one of the greatest soundtracks, I think. The Ballad of the Goddesses is amazing. It's got some of the best dungeons, even. I think the Sand Ship and I think the Ancient Cistern are like two of the best dungeons in the whole series, you know? In the 3D era of Zelda, the dungeons I feel like got even more simple and even more linear, just a lot less creative. And I think in this game, they brought back some very interesting design elements. Like I mentioned, the Ancient Cistern, where you're moving up and down the statue, you know, which allows you to go to different areas, or the Sand Ship having to mess with the Time Shift Stones, which is also present in the Lanayru mining facility. I think you don't see a lot of that in Wind Waker. You get kind of very bland, linear dungeons. Same thing with Twilight Princess. It tries to trick you into the dungeons thinking they're more complex and huge, but there's really not much to it. And I think Skyward Sword really stepped it up as far as dungeon design goes. Even if they weren't that challenging, they were more interesting and more unique to the other 3D titles. I think a lot of the games, the story is fine, but in this one, I think the story was fantastic. The scene where Zelda is, it's just like, I have to go to sleep now or whatever, like, that affected me more than almost any other Zelda game there ever was. I think the motion controls, it really turned a lot of people off, but I think there's also just a subset of people who just will immediately not give any game the light of day if there's even an iota of motion controls in the game. I think the motion controls are actually interesting, definitely compared to Twilight Princess, where you just start wagging your arms around. There's some interesting elements to it. I'd say they're not perfect, but I think that there's something to appreciate in them. And that's why I think Skyward Sword does not get the respect it deserves.
I think you made some good points, Goo. some sentiments that I find frustrating with Skyward Sword. But the matter of respect is something that I'm going to take and try to explain why, if you don't respect Link to the Past, you should respect Link to the Past for what it is. Link to the Past is the gold standard of top-down Zelda titles. Something that Skyward Sword obviously isn't, but something that Skyward Sword still kind of owes to Link to the Past. If you look at the history of the Zelda series, you have Zelda 1, you have Zelda 2, and you have Link to the Past. Zelda 1 being a similar game, kind of sets the standard of an exploration game. You have a sword, you have, different items that you can collect. You go through dungeons or temples or labyrinths, whatever you want to call them. And then you save Hyrule, you save Zelda, you defeat Ganon. Basic stuff. Zelda 2 tries to mix that formula up, goes for a 2D side-scrolling, more action-based game. Different kind of style, one that we've not really seen in the Zelda series since. But where Link to the Past comes in is it goes back to that formula of the original Legend of Zelda and expands on that. Takes new mechanics, new items, a larger world, more dungeons to go through, and setting the standard for the handheld games, while also being the bridge between the 2D Zelda titles and the 3D Zelda titles. You have an entire backbone of 2D Zelda games that are built around Link to the Past that I don't quite think that people truly respect. Without Link to the Past, you would not have the Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, the Oracle games, and any of the 2D games, Link's Awakening. And I think that those games owe something to Link to the Past, just because of how great the game is, how much it expands upon the Zelda formula, before the Zelda formula even is what it is. It takes everything that is Zelda 1, amplifies it, and sets the trend for not only the 2D games, but the 3D games as well. Having an inventory, swapping items, going through dungeons, having orders to them, so having your 3 separate regions, something that Link to the Past started, which Skyward Sword also borrows from. A lot of the music tracks are reused. There's an homage to it that I think is a bit subtle, and every Zelda game kind of spins its own web off of A Link to the Past.
I definitely see that in all the games.
Especially in Skyward Sword. 3 regions, going through dungeons. Something on its basis level that maybe even Skyward Sword doesn't owe. But, well, no, that it does owe, but the games before that, and the games before that. So you mentioned Twilight Princess, you mentioned The Wind Waker. We didn't say Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, but once again, going back to the bridge between 2D and 3D games, Link to the Past is that bridge to the 3D games as well. And you'll see that Ocarina of Time, makes that jump to 3D, but borrows so much from Link to the Past. So let me go to the story of Skyward Sword and say why it does get the respect that I think that it does get the respect that it deserves, is the story. Skyward Sword does have the best story in the Zelda series. You've said that too. It's something that I'm gonna play with because the ratings for games, like you go back to Link to the Past, you don't get IGN, you don't have a million outlets that say, oh, this is the best game. This is the best game that you could get on Super Nintendo. It's Zelda. It's everything that you love about it. It's awesome. You get word of mouth. You get hearsay. You rent the game. You try it out. With Skyward Sword, the reviews for that game are 10 out of 10. Game of the year. The one thing that no one takes away from Skyward Sword is the story. And it's something that I personally respect. The high point of Skyward Sword for me is the story. The characters in it, the development of Groose, the relationship between Link and Zelda. I think that if you were to go and look at a catalog of reviews on Skyward Sword, it definitely got the praise and the respect of people that played the game appreciating it for its story. Maybe the rest not so much, but I definitely think in terms of the story, Skyward Sword gets all the respect that it deserves.
I would feel like it got the respect it deserves if you would have seen elements of it carried over into future games. But I don't even think Nintendo realizes how great of a story they had in that game, like the elements of it, because we then go to Breath of the Wild. One of the weakest parts of that game is its story. You know, a lot of people argue they sacrifice some of the story to have an open world game where you can do things in any order, but I think that's malarkey. I think you can still have a pretty amazing story in a game that is completely open world. I wish they had built on the type of story they told in Skyward Sword. You know, not copying the story, but just the way they told it. I will say in Breath of the Wild they had some cool cinematography elements in some of the cutscenes, but the story it wasn't there. So I feel like if this game would have gotten more respect, you know, it would have, like, those elements would have carried over. Whereas, like, A Link to the Past, I think a lot of people realize that these elements are present in all these games. And I do agree with you that it is like the backbone of the series. But in my opinion, I think there are people who realize that.
I think that it gets overlooked for the original Legend of Zelda and Ocarina of Time. I think there's more of a fondness to those games, where it's almost like it's their first game. Because Legend of Zelda is the first in the series. Ocarina of Time was my first game personally.
You know, you guys let us know what you think. Like, does A Link to the Past not get enough respect it deserves for being, you know, such a foundational backbone of the whole series, or the Skyward Sword not given enough respect for being a better game than a lot of people say it is? That all depends on how you look at it, because, you know, some people might think, you know, A Link to the Past, it's not all that special, and some people might, you know, say Skyward Sword, it's not all that special. But did our words convince you otherwise? Yeah, let us know.
That's what's key.
That's what's key. You can click up in the top right-hand corner of the screen. We're going to have a little poll. You just click on that icon. It's a little eye, and you can pick which one of us you thought made a more compelling argument. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe. You'll know whenever we have new videos. There's definitely going to be more of this series coming. I think we both really enjoy doing it, right?
Oh yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's great to be able to, like, give your piece and your opinion. It's a good time.
Yeah, also let us know in the comments what you thought about this video. Let us know what other topics you would like us to debate. We're looking for ones that are more open to interpretation, a little more abstract, less of what's your favorite this or that. But, you know, we'll also consider doing some of that, because sometimes there's nothing like a good old-fashioned just trying to prove that your favorite game is better, your favorite character is better. Check out some of these other videos we've done if you like this, if you like us. You can see some more stuff we've done. And once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.